Hey everyone, my name is Mariana, and I am the host of the Commitment to Growth podcast and founder of the platform Commitment to Growth. I am a resilience coach, and my passion is making personal growth information accessible, actionable, and evidence-based for the modern day ambitious 20-something. Thank you for choosing the Commitment to Growth podcast today, and let's dive right in. Hello, everybody. How is it going? I hope you're doing well, whatever time of the day this episode happens to find you. Thank you for being here. My name is Mariana. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back. It is so lovely, as always, to have you here. And I'm so honored to have you here and that you chose to be here today. And that you chose this podcast of all podcasts, because you could have chosen so many others, but you chose this one. So you're awesome. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited as always. I hope you're having a lovely week. It's summer of 2023 as I'm recording this. We are just into the first little bit of July, already freaking halfway done through the year, and it's insane to think about. And summer is the time where I have found the last couple of years that I thrive the most in my creativity. I thrive the most in my ambition to do projects. I thrive the most in my ambition to build relationships and put myself out there. And because of that, I'm extra happy to be here today, is what I'm trying to say. So lovely as always to sit behind the microphone and get to chat with you and bounce ideas off with you and share with you a little bit about what I've been thinking, because the evenings get longer, the days get longer, and it means that I have more time to sit with my thoughts and get in my own head about things that I'm curious about, things that I'm passionate about thinking about. So this episode is a conundrum of those thoughts. So as I'm recording this, it has been about 24 hours since Instagram Threads dropped. I'm on there now. If you're on there as well. I held back for about 16 minutes and then I got it, and now I'm obsessed with it. I've taken about 15-minute breaks of increments between going on Threads because it's just been so much fun. So it's not at all healthy for me. I promise I am putting in the systems to implement some self-control, but it's just so fun. And I just find that it's a way more nonchalant way to just touch base with people and connect and see like a way more raw version of people who typically show up online as like very, professional and personal growth oriented and driven. And it's so funny to see them post something about like their dog or like a minor mishap they had that day. It's fun. So if you have the self-control and the capacity on your phone for another form of social media, I am on there. I am sharing thoughts like these on there that I share on there, but also a funny little blurb or two when I think I'm being funny. I hope I'm being funny to more than one person than just myself. You can be the ones to dictate that, but I am on there if you so happen to find yourself over in that space as well. And what other updates do I have for you? I think that's it for now. We'll dive right in today. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to chat with you. I have no script today. As with the last few episodes, that has kind of been the theme, aside from the warrior mentality episodes that would have released as you're listening to this. If you haven't gone and listened to those, I highly recommend it if you're looking for something structured and evidence-based. And all that I preach on here is evidence-based, but those two episodes were a big compilation of tips and tricks for having a balanced yet disciplined lifestyle where you're not sacrificing your sanity for suffering. So I highly recommend going and listening to those if you so have the chance and so desire. But today we're just gonna chat because as much as summers are a great opportunity for a lot of us to wind down and take a break, many of us are off school right now on vacation. If you're like me, then maybe you just graduated university or high school and maybe you're going through a transition period right now. Either one is fine, but summers can be a lot of fun, but also bring a lot of questions forth and be a time where you're self-comparing because you are seeing and talking to people who are preparing to go on to their next chapter, and you're not sure about where you're going or how you're going to go in a certain direction or why you want to go in a certain direction, if you want to go in a certain direction. So I thought it'd be nice to just sit down and kind of talk about that, because I know I'm in a very similar place in my life. I'll get to that in a second here, but I know that it's something that I've been hearing from a lot of people, especially a lot of my fellow friends who graduated university and who are kind of lost right now about what to do, how to go forth, what this means, that there's no structured institution that is bringing us together and, putting us to work towards a common goal. It's all said and done now, right? So thought it'd be nice to chat in case you're feeling this too, or you're going through a life transition and you wanted a comforting shoulder or some words of wisdom to kind of get you through this. Here is what I am currently going through and what I'm currently doing to tackle it in my own life. So if you've been here for long enough, you will know that for the last many, many years of my life, for as long as I can remember, about 10 or 12, I have had the aspiration to become a physician. For the last 4 or 5 years of my life, I have been working towards volunteering in every place possible and getting all the best marks possible and juggling work at the same time as having a social life and doing a ton of projects on the side in an effort to build myself up to be the best candidate for medical school. And last year I applied to a medical school, was not successful in the application process. So the plan this summer was to write my entrance exam again and send a batch of applications this time, because last summer I only applied to one. And there's no easy way for me to say yet that a few months ago I just started having this feeling at the bottom of my throat that then just kind of became this whole body reaction when people would ask what I wanted to do, and I said doctor, and just it started to feel different. The answer started to feel not authentic. It started to just evoke a certain reaction for me that I'd never experienced before. And since the start of the summer, since I graduated, now it's been about 2 months now, I've been working as an exercise physiologist in a private healthcare clinic. And I won't get too much into the specifics of what I've seen and everything, because it's a breach of confidentiality, of course, but it has been an environment that has opened my eyes to a lot of the gaps in the public healthcare system in Canada, at least, and has really put me to question if it's something that I want to do with the rest of my life. Because truthfully, up until now, I think I've had this very Grey's Anatomy perspective, admittedly, of what medical school was going to be. And, when you open yourself up to the cons of a particular career after being so honed in on the pros, you start thinking about things differently, and the way that you make decisions around it changes, and the way that you approach that aspiration changes. And that has been the experience for me recently, where in February of this year, it's now July for reference, I had signed up and paid for my medical school entrance exam. I had all the components in place to apply to medical schools this summer. And 2 days ago, I canceled my exam date, pretty much unfollowed every medical school medicine related account that I follow on Instagram, except for a select few. And now we're here. And I'm taking the time and space to make a decision that is free of influences that could make me go back on these feelings that I'm having for the wrong reasons. And what I mean by that is, when you try to convince yourself into something about only looking at the highlight reels of what people are showing about it, you're going to make a decision for the wrong reasons. And what I have found really helpful recently is and has been completely severing myself from the influences that got me here in the first place to understand who I am outside of this identity. Because the truth is that this has been an identity of mine for so long. For so many years, it has been, the podcast and commitment to growth and sports and everything. Like, yes, they're all a part of me, but at the end of the day, I am this aspiring doctor. Like, that has always been the forefront of who I've presented myself as, to other people as. But now I'm at this intersection of, is what I'm doing here on this platform only that, just something on the side that I do as a hobby, versus wanting to build something more out of it? Am I just a doctor and that is what I am, the title that I will hold for the rest of my life? Or am I more than that? Can I be more than that? Is there a way for me to help people and make the impact that I desire without going down that path? So all of this backstory to say that if you're experiencing something similar to where you are at a crossroads of not knowing what's next, or having to put into question who you are and what you've wanted for so long and why you've been doing things for so long to work to a certain outcome, or if you're simply just juggling a lot of options that all interest you perhaps equally, the first thing that you need to know is that you are being put to question something for a reason. If you are doubting previous ideas that you had about what you thought you wanted your life to look like, and now you're in a place where that thought or that aspiration is filled with doubt, is filled with questions, is filled with perhaps aversion even to the original thought, the original dream that you had in place, there is a reason why you are being driven towards other things right now. And what I need you to remember too is that it doesn't mean that it's a no forever. It might just be a no for right now towards that certain thing, towards that certain aspiration, because the only reason why you are being perhaps temporarily or maybe permanently even, I think it's also healthy to open yourself up to that possibility. The only reason why you're being derailed off of the path that you thought was the one that you needed to take is because there might be a better one. In fact, might not be. There is a better path for you to explore right now that is in line with the desires that you don't even know that you have. Let that sink in for a moment. There is a path that is being built for you right now. There is a path that you are being derailed towards that has options and opportunities and people that are better for you than what you think you want, that are than you might even be able to conceptualize. And that's hard because, it's so easy to get uncomfortable. It's so easy to get anxious about an outcome and a desire that you've wanted for so long, that you've had the plans in place to execute, that you've had the desire for so long. Heck, I can remember crying tears of happiness at the thought of the day that I would read my acceptance letter to medical school to my parents, like just crying of happiness for the day that would come. And you know what? Maybe that day is still in my future someday, but right now I just know that for me to make a decision that is in my best interest and out of respect for my authenticity, I need to take the adequate time and space from the previous ideas that I had about what my life would look like and open myself up uncomfortably to an alternative that might be better than what I thought my life would look like, that might be better than what I have planned for myself for all of these years. who we are changes as life goes on, and therefore so do the things we want. And sometimes what we miss is that how we want the things we want changes as well. How those things are going to look, yet still fulfill the same or similar purpose that we had when we initially dreamt of a particular goal or aspiration, will change as well to align with the people that we've become and the attentions that we've set and the hopes that we have for ourselves and for others. And something that a few friends of mine have been telling me as I've been going through this process is that it's not that the why has changed, it's the how. And that's really important to keep in mind too. I think that one of the many, many privileges that we have right now in the century and the time that we're living in is that there are so many ways to become what you want, and there are so many ways to do what you want as your own business owner, as your own boss, or within an institution or an organization, because there is so much demand for so many people with diverse needs and diverse expertise and all of that. So it might be too that you start exploring options that you didn't even know existed, or that you didn't even know could help you fulfill the purpose that you have set for yourself. And that's healthy, and that's out of respect for your future self. Something that one of my really, really good friends said to me recently, who is also going through something very similar in her own life as it pertains to her career goals, and is also choosing to take, an extended period of time away from schooling and all of that to make her own decision as well, is she said, she's my age, she's also 23. She said, I am doing this right now to avoid having a midlife crisis in my 30s. And I thought that was just the most brilliant way to look at it, because why would I not take an extra year or 2 or 3 right now in my 20s when, maybe I'm still allowed to be reckless and I'm still allowed to be making certain mistakes, and I'm not worried about a family or paying a mortgage yet, so that I don't waste more years later, maybe 5 to 6, reestablishing myself when I have additional responsibilities, like hopefully a family and a partner and a mortgage under my name. So if you are having doubts about the outcome of your future or what path you're going down right now, just know that whatever investments you make right now into your time, your health, your money, your sanity, your career, in whatever way that looks like, if it's in the form of time spent away from school or work to find yourself, if it is money invested into schooling, into mentorship, into therapy, into a health coach, whatever that looks like, if it is resource investment into anything, whatever high risk investment you're making right now. And remember, high risk is subjective because we live in an era where there is a timeline of expectations set on everybody. So high risk, which is what I'm doing, quote unquote, right now by taking a few years off, it's what it feels like to other people. That doesn't look like that way, right? Because it's just a few years. It's a crack in it's a dent in the rest of your life, right? But anyways, back to the original point. Whatever high risk investment you make right now is you looking out for your future self. It is you honoring that future version of you. It is you honoring their time and place and their sanity and their peace of mind and their purpose in their time. If you take that time right now to own and allow yourself to have the time and space to sit with yourself and ask the right questions and explore the different options to understand what you want and why you might want it and how you might want it. So just know that A, you're being put to question something right now for a reason, and B, you are guaranteeing yourself less time wasted and less time spent in suffering or discomfort or confusion later by investing it right now into understanding why you're being quote unquote derailed from the direction that you thought you needed to take to become what you thought you were going to be or you thought you wanted to be. And of course, with any conversation about identity crises and, going back on long-term plans that you've had for a while is, of course, the discussion around the potential of having let people around you down. I've definitely felt that. I'm definitely feeling that. Although I know that I cognitively don't have a reason to, there is always that in the back of your head, especially if you're a chronic people pleaser like myself, recovering people pleaser, I should say. But it's important to shed light on, and I think that it's important to sit with yourself and ask yourself in those moments why you think you're letting people down. And if you were in a similar position, or if you were somebody watching you in your position, what would you have to say to yourself? If you went up to another version, if one of your friends came up to you and told you that they were afraid of disappointing you for making a similar decision like you are right now, what would you say to them? I'm assuming that 9.9 out of 10 people listening to this would say that you would want nothing but the best for that person, and sometimes the best is having to quit on something or having to walk away from something that at one point held a lot of meaning. And it's not that it doesn't hold a lot of meaning right now, but it might just mean that the meaning or how to fulfill the meaning is different, right? So just remember that it is okay to hold the fear of letting somebody down so long as you don't get in your own way and end up working towards something or adamantly pushing for something for the sake of avoiding the disappointment that you are creating for yourself in your head that person is going to hold towards you, right? Unless they've told you that they're going to be disappointed, do not make any assumptions. And even if, and I've said it on here before and I'll say it again, even if you think or they have told you that your decision is going to disappoint them, you are better off disappointing 100 people before you ever disappoint yourself. And before you ever go back on your integrity and your authenticity, because you will end up paying for it later. Believe me. Sometimes the bravest and most courageous thing that you can do for yourself is give yourself the permission to not become what you thought you were going to be, and forgive yourself for the potential of not becoming who you thought you were going to be, because it's one thing to disappoint other people, but it's another to feel like you're disappointing yourself. But just know that, again, the time that you invest right now into knowing yourself better is a form of honoring yourself and is a form of showing yourself the utmost respect, because nothing to me says respect more than taking time for yourself in the face of a society that encourages consistent hustle and consistent go. There's a saying recently that I've been seeing a lot on Threads now and on Instagram and on social media that is a spin-off on a saying that typically is said, and I'm sure you'll know it as soon as you hear it. And this new saying goes, don't just do something, stand there. And I think it's a fantastic take on the original saying, because it goes back to the point that we were making earlier, that sometimes you are allowed to just stand there. Sometimes you are allowed to just be without doing. You're allowed to just be in the discomfort to welcome it. You're allowed to just be in the questions while processing them. You're allowed to just be in a given version of you that you are right now without always having to look to what is next. That's exciting and everything, but you have to take what you can learn from the current version of you as well. There is so much for you here. In fact, everything that is available to you in a given moment is here in the right now, because the past and present are figments of time, are figments of imagination. They're gone, or they haven't come yet, and therefore are only a prediction of what could be. So, with all of this in mind that we've talked about, if you're finding yourself in a similar position to me or to somebody that you know who is at a crossroads in life right now of not knowing where to go, what to do next, how to start asking the right questions, I want you to keep the following 3 things in mind. A, consider severing yourself from some, if not most of, the things that you have used to reinforce a particular identity, to see who you are without it, and if you miss the potential of becoming that person or doing that thing in the absence of them. Because if your mind, if your heart is still drawn to that prospect or that potential in the absence of the things that you have used to drive you in that direction, to reinforce that identity for you, then maybe that says something about how you need to think about it maybe a little bit differently, or how you need to approach it a little bit differently, or maybe you just needed some time away from it to explore yourself in a different light. But if you are not less fulfilled with that prospect once it's out of your life, if you are finding yourself led towards other things in the absence of that reinforcement, maybe that just means that your desires have shifted, and maybe that just means that how you want the things you want has shifted as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it's uncomfortable because it feels like you're grieving something. It feels like you are letting something go, to be honest. I've definitely felt a little bit guilty about the people I've unfollowed and how I've so abruptly cut things off for a while, but just know that it is in this space, exactly like how you would unfollow an ex or stop following a friend that you broke up with. You are allowed to break up with this aspiration for a while and block it from your life for a little bit, so that you can make the right decisions in the right headspace without that reinforcement consistently. The second thing that I want you to do is to prioritize above all in this time doing the things that call out to your heart. And I know that sounds cheesy, but hear me out. I want you to spend this time trying different things just because you're curious about them. Try a class you've never tried before. Talk to a person that you wouldn't see yourself talking to usually. Read something, write about something, listen to something that you wouldn't usually gravitate towards, but you find yourself having curiosity about and perhaps some fervor towards, because those are the things that speak to your heart are things that hold pieces of you in them that you might even have yet to discover, right? So step out of your own comfort zone and get out of your own way by detaching from the things that you are so used to doing on repeat that, are such an innate part of you now, that you have forgotten about all of the other possibilities that are open to you out there. So make the conscious decision to, again, try a class or meet a different group of people or start a new hobby, foster a new skill that you wouldn't see yourself doing on a regular day, but you're feeling called to. That class that you've been wanting to try for a while, or that language you've been trying to start speaking for a while. Do it. Just commit to it for 5 minutes a day, because it is within those spaces and times that you give yourself to play, in those spaces and times that you give yourself to get curious and to let your curiosity flourish, that you allow yourself to come closer to your desires, to come closer to the intuitive callings that are trying to make themselves known, but we end up entering pilot mode for so long and for such extended periods of time that we don't even hear them anymore. I recently took up a movement class with a just like a movement group that is doing a ton of different things here in Vancouver. And to paint you the picture, like, one weekend ago, I was balancing a stick on my finger, and yesterday we were playing with staffs and we did acro yoga, things that I never, ever, ever thought that I would do, but got me into my own body, and are things that I never, ever knew that I could find pleasure and enjoyment in. And within a group of people that is also has that fervor and that desire for getting to that level of discomfort and curiosity. So understand that when you choose to go out of your own way to explore something that you didn't think you could do or that you thought you would ever want to do, you are reaping more than just the benefit and the win of trying it for yourself. You are potentially opening yourself up to a community of people, of like-minded souls who are maybe going through something similar to you, or went through something similar, or have a thing or two to share with you about that thing, or have a thing or two to teach you about that thing, so that it becomes a more intrinsic part of you, and so that you see the depth to that thing as well, and how it can maybe become a part of you now and help you answer the questions that you're asking about yourself during this time right now. So the second thing that I want you to do in this time and space is to go explore the things that interest you for the sake of interesting you and for no other reason. If you feel even a twinge of curiosity when you think about that thing, or you think about the prospect of trying it, just do it. Just commit to it, because you are part of derailing from your path is you being given an opportunity to explore these things and to invest yourself in a different way than you might have ever imagined, and therefore come close to a version of you that you may not have known could exist. And finally, the third thing that I want you to do during a time of identity crisis or serious doubts about life is to spend more time in silence. This one might seem a little bit weird, but we can get so caught in noise because we're so used to plugging in our headphones and putting on a podcast and listening to music. And while those things can be very useful during this time, and there's a lot of people out there who can share information on this, you have to remember that you are your best source of information when it comes to making decisions about your life. And we all have to work on building that muscle, but especially now in these times where it can be really easy to just go looking to everybody else for answers and information. You have to remember that there will never be a better answer than the one that you give yourself, because you found it within yourself. So spend more conscious time keeping your headphones in your backpack or your purse or whatever, and going for walks and meditating in a space where you can use your silence as a way to give voice to your intuition and the part of you inside of you that wants to be heard and that wants to guide you towards a path that gives you a little bit more certainty and perhaps offers you a little bit more answers as to what to do next or how to make the next move or how to approach this time differently. You owe it to yourself to spend this time not only pouring into new hobbies or finding new hobbies or pouring into your curiosity, but also giving voice to the parts of you that are the most direct manifestations of the most authentic version of you. And therefore, the version of you that knows what it wants and knows how to get it and why it wants a particular thing. So, the third thing I want you to do that I am recommending in this episode is for you to spend more time in your own silence and in your own company within that silence, because you're all you've got and you've got to be your own best friend. And this is also a perfect time to foster that relationship, because if you can get through this hurdle, you can get through any in the future, knowing that you always have your own back because you trust yourself and respect yourself enough and have the adequate relationship with yourself to dive into the right questions and the hard questions with yourself and by yourself and find the answers that are most true to you at a given time. That is all I've got for you in today's episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and for being here. I hope that it resonated with you, and I hope that if you're experiencing something similar, that you are finding some comfort in the words that I provided in that episode, and that you have a more directed way of moving forward, and that you have a better understanding of maybe why you're going through what you're going through right now. That is my hope, and that was my goal with this episode, that you could find some resonance and some resolve in my words and my own experience, and know that we are going through this together and that we are all in this together, and because of that, we owe it to each other to support each other. So if you want more episodes like this, and if you want more from me, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. It's at Commitment to Growth. I'm on there posting reels and updates about the podcast regularly, but also upcoming events and opportunities from my platform. And I'm also on Threads. I don't actually know, I guess my username on Threads is the same as Instagram, but there's also a link on my bio on Instagram, so just do that. That's all I know right now. If you want monthly newsletters from me, you can join my monthly newsletter subscription for completely free. It is on my website. If you go www.committedtogrowth.com, there is a pop-up as soon as you get on the website. There's an opportunity for you to sign up for the newsletter. And I think that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for being here, sending you so much strength and so much will and so much courage on this journey towards yourself and within this time of doubt. But just know that it's coming. There is another side, and it's going to come from you putting in the work towards yourself, within yourself, because you've always had yourself. And I'll be right here waiting to hear how that goes. Have a wonderful rest of your day.